Welcome to the Puck and Pigskin Podcast, presented by Belly Up Sports. Just great sports fans talking mostly about hockey and football, sprinkled with a bit of everything else. Now, here's your host, a Flames fan with a Golden Knights backup plan, Jason Bizik.
All right, joining me now is Ryan McCarthy from the No Credentials Required podcast. Ryan, how's it going?
Good, Jason. How about yourself? How's life in Canada?
I'm doing all right, although we got a little bit of snow overnight. Not too much, but a little bit. Enough to put a skiff on the ground, but it's all gone now because the sun is out.
Yeah.
How's the weather in your neck of the woods?
Well, right where I am in upstate New York, we're currently experiencing a bit of a mild spell. It's going to go down. I think we're supposed to get some rain later, so nothing too fancy. It's not snow, thankfully. I've had enough of that for the season. So, I'm looking forward to warmer weather, getting outside and do some activities.
Yeah, that'd be great to actually get out and do some stuff.
Like throwing the pigskin around.
Yeah, throwing the pigskin around. No more puck, just pigskin. Although the puck, we got the puck going on the TV still. So why don't we start our conversation there with the good old NHL? And of course, you and I typically are live every couple weeks with the fantasy hockey, and we got playoff races starting to shape up. What are your thoughts so far on the season and how the divisions are set up and all that kind of stuff?
I kind of like the way the divisions were set up for this year. It's an exceptional year. I don't know if they'll keep the divisions the way they are for next season, but it's kind of funny seeing how it's just interdivision, and the rivalries have been really, really great. For the league, I think having an all Canadian division has been fun to watch. For the couple of games I've watched of the Canadian teams, there's a lot of fast, exciting action. You guys got a lot of really good players up there right now with Toronto and Edmonton. Obviously, you got McDavid and you got Matthews for Toronto. But I think that the interdivisional play has been fun to watch. My New Jersey Devils have the Boston Bruins in their back pockets, which is kind of fun, but they just can't beat Buffalo. So I'm a little peeved about that. But I mean, this year's been kind of, like I said, it's been fun to watch, and just watching the divisions play out. We're getting down to the wire with the trade deadline, which is tomorrow as we record, and it's going to be fun to see what the standings are after the season, after all said and done, and see who adds, which teams add which players that'll make a difference for their team going forward, and for the rest of the season, and in the divisional race, and also in the playoffs.
Yeah, geez, if it weren't for the New Jersey Devils, I wonder if Buffalo would have any wins.
I think four of their 10 wins have come against the Devils this year.
I think so.
Can't stand it.
That's how it always works, though. You always seem to lose against the bad teams, right?
Right.
Yeah. Speaking of the interdivision play and the rivalries that are heating up, the Battle of Alberta fired up again last night, and my Flames beat the Oilers 5-0.
Oh, skunked.
Yeah, so it's nice to see the Oilers have a bad game once in a while.
So wait, I'm trying to remember. You're the Flames fan.
I'm the Flames fan.
Your wife is the Oilers fan?
My wife is an Oilers fan. She is also an Edmonton Eskimos fan. And I'm a Calgary Stampeders fan.
Edmonton football team.
Sorry, Edmonton football team. I'm curious to see how many people are actually going to drop the Eskimo name going forward from here on in. I know a lot of the true fans probably never will, but
I mean, I've only heard one podcast. I listened to the Two and Out CFL podcasts, Travis and Ty.
Yeah,
they go with the Edmonton football team, but I mean, for the traditional fan, I think they're going to keep it Eskimos. Keep it the Eskimo. I mean, I still call the Washington football team the Redskins at times. So
yeah, I think for the most part, it just kind of comes out, right? You don't really think about it when you're saying it.
No, I mean I'm 43 years old, so I've called the Redskins ever since I could talk.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard to change. Change is hard.
Yeah. So looking at the trade deadline coming up tomorrow, do you foresee your Devils making any moves, or what are your thoughts there?
Well, they kind of already made their biggest move by moving Palmieri and Zajac across the about an hour's drive away
Yeah.
on the island. But it's good that the Tom Fitzgerald has the relationship he has with Lou Lamoriello to know that there's a little bit of trust there with because last year they sent Andy Green over to the island for the Islanders' deep playoff run. So
That's
I
right.
think the Devils are looking to stockpile their picks right now. Some people have said this is kind of a weak draft, but I mean, who really knows? I mean, is this weak? I mean, I don't know. I don't really pay attention to juniors, or I should be paying attention more to juniors. But is it kind of are those people right? Is it kind of a weak draft this year?
It must be kind of a weak draft, and the only reason I say that because I don't pay a whole lot of attention to juniors either. The only reason I say that is because usually I hear big names that are coming up in the draft come into conversation somehow, like Lafreniere. How do you even say his
Lafreniere? I took Caesar the French in school, so
yeah,
his
name was
popping up the French names, so we're good.
Yeah, his name was popping up all over last year, so I knew that he was a big name in the draft last year. This year, I don't know. I haven't heard any real names popping up anywhere, so that's what makes me think it's going to be a weak draft.
Do you think because of COVID? Because right now, I know the Q is playing, the Dub is playing.
The Dub is playing, but right now
wasn't playing though.
The Dub is playing, but right now there is a COVID outbreak in the Calgary Hitmen, I believe it is, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken. So they're shut down for a bit. I don't know anything about the OHL or the Q.
They're not playing this year.
I very rarely pay attention to the Eastern leagues, and I probably should more since, I'm an NHL fan. I should, a lot of players come from the O and the Q. So,
yep.
But yeah, maybe COVID could definitely have something to do with it. That's a very good observation.
Yeah, I know that Ontario is shut down right now, so that has something to do with it. But I'm looking at the draft. I'm looking at the draft rankings right now, and the top 100 right now. There are 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players from Europe who are listed in the top 10 for draft prospects, and
wow.
There's 1, 2, 3, 4. No, 3 players from the University of Michigan alone who are ranked in the top 100, according to HockeyWriters.com. So
yeah,
but there's another Hughes boy is going to be playing. That's going to be coming up in the draft. Luke Hughes, the brother of Jack and Quinn.
Jack and Quinn,
he's in the USA. He's a defenseman in the USA under 18 right now, development program. So
they're going to be the new Sutters, are they?
Maybe. Well, they're the American Sutters. well, them and the Broughtons, but from the Broughtons from the 80s. But we had the Hughes brothers are going to be are definitely looking to be the American version of the Sutters.
So yeah, I'm looking at the NHL East Division right now. Capitals, Islanders, Penguins, pretty much guaranteed top 3. It's looking like Boston may have a chance to slide in there. New Jersey, I don't know. I don't know if they can.
No.
I mean, They're not officially eliminated, but
no, they're pretty close. I mean, they've played 39 games, so they got 17 games left. They have a goal differential of -26. I think they're going to be in a lot. They're definitely going to be in a lottery team, but I know they had the new restrictions this year for the lottery. You can't have the number 1 pick now. I think 3 out of 4 years or something like that. So it's a weird,
yeah,
it's a weird
that's right,
setup for
something like
draft
that.
lottery. But they did pick up a player today. They made a trade with Washington. They sent their conditional 3rd round pick to Washington for one of
Ovechkin.
no, I wish. Well, he is a free agent next year. He's only a 36-year-old free agent. But no, they acquired.
Washington is never gonna get rid of him.
No. They picked up Jonas Siegenthaler, who was a teammate of Nico Hischier during the World Juniors back in 2015. So, he's a defenseman. So they needed. I guess Washington needed to clear some cap space, and they figured they could send somebody over who can clear some cap space, so they can acquire another defenseman. The Devils need some defense in there. He's a younger guy. He's 23 years old. So, but as far as I can see, and they waived Semi Vatanen. They figure Dmitry Kulikov and Ryan Murray are on the trading block before the deadline tomorrow. So we'll see. I mean, Kulikov and Murray were 1 year signed. They only signed for a year anyway.
Yeah.
So they may or may not come back. I mean, Murray is still a younger dude. He's still in his 20s. He could probably find a team somewhere in a free agency. Vatanen's also in his 20s. I think Kulikov is in his early 30s, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, they're getting rid of guys who they can get some more draft capital back because these guys are only on a year, sign on a 1-season contract, so it's not going to cost them too much if they send them. And they can get some capital back. That's fine with me. I just built for the future, develop players. Apparently, they're taking the same model as my New York Jets for football. They're trading away they're trading away quarter-piece players, but they're getting back draft capital to build up for the future. So maybe Joe Douglas and Tom Fitzgerald are talking in the back, somewhere in the background.
You never know. They could be sharing secrets. You never know.
They could be. I mean, it's only about a 10-minute drive from MetLife Stadium, from the offices of the New York in Florham Park to Newark. So you never know. But I mean, I think the Devils. I could have seen them. I thought they would be a more competitive for a playoff spot this year, but unfortunately, with the way that things have been going, between their 16-day layoff for COVID, because they had all those COVID cases. It's come back to hit them in a hard way, because you're playing 4 games. You're playing 4 games a week for a good 2 months.
Yeah,
it's gonna be hard to get some rest, and you got guys who are playing tired, playing hurt. You're bound to lose some games. You're bound to go on a streak where you lose some games. So it's unfortunate, but I think next year hopefully they'll be a lot better. I'll have a lot of cap space. I actually wrote an article on bellyupsports.com this week about how the Devils, now that they've traded Paul Mary and they traded Zajac, and they're getting some more cap space in. I think I expect them to spend a lot of money in the offseason to improve their team.
Yeah, it'll definitely probably be off-season moves for most teams. I think the trade deadline is going to be pretty quiet this year, for the simple fact that any trades that are done, players will have to go through quarantine protocol and all kinds of stuff. And there's just not much season left. So I don't think that a lot of teams are going to make any big moves, especially cross-border moves.
No, I think you're right there. I mean, I don't expect a whole lot of big names to be moved this year. I mean, for my Devils, it was Palms and Travs, but those are the only 2 guys who are touchable.
So besides those 2, who is the big name on the Devils this season? I couldn't even tell you who plays goal or.
Mackenzie Blackwood's in the pipes.
Okay,
he's their goalie. He's their goaltender of the future. Jack Hughes is their number 1 center. He's their top scorer right now, along with Pavel Zacha, who's finally meeting the potential that he had when he was their first overall pick in 2016. I want to say. I
think so. Yeah.
So they're starting to come to their own. Yeah, Pavel Zacha, 25 points. Miles Wood has 13 goals. Jesper Bratt, 19 assists. Yeah, Ty Smith, he's in the running for the Calder, the defenseman. So as is Yegor Sharangovich. He's a Belarusian who is lightly regarded. He was I think it was a 6th or 7th round pick a couple of years ago. Been playing in Binghamton for the last couple of seasons. Made the team this year and has made a pretty big difference with goals. He scores some important goals in big situations. But
Yeah,
those 3 guys, and Yanni Kuokkanen, who they got in the trade with Carolina, so that's in Vatanen to Carolina. But they got a lot of young guys, a lot of youth, who I think they're going to make a big difference in the next couple seasons.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely going to be a different season next year because I don't believe they're keeping the divisions the way they are, and that's really what's keeping my knowledge of other teams at a low right now. Is I don't see any other teams. It's different when your team is playing teams from the East, but now it's you're playing the same Canadian teams every week, so.
Mm-hmm.
I know the Toronto Maple Leafs roster like the back of my hand, but couldn't tell you who plays in Buffalo or well, I could tell you who plays in Buffalo because everybody's thinking that they're going to acquire those players.
Yeah, Taylor Hall, Jack Eichel.
Yeah, Jeff Skinner. Yeah, I can't really brag much about my team being better than yours because they're pretty even right now. We've played 41 games and we got 37 points, so we're down out of a playoff spot as well at the moment, but creeping up on Montreal. So,
do you think Montreal will be sellers or buyers? I mean, you mentioned in your article they're probably going to be buyers. I know they picked up John Merrill from Detroit this afternoon. That was a pretty good pickup because John Merrill, former New Jersey Devil.
Montreal is a team that, and I see them play quite a bit because they're usually on TV before the Flames play. I think they're a team that is on the cusp of being just as good as the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think they had some goaltending struggles early in the season. Carey Price was struggling a little bit. Then he kind of shaped up. So I think had they not started out with the struggling a little bit at the beginning, I think they'd be right up there with the Jets and the Leafs. And so they're a tough team, and I think they're going to make a move to maybe bring in a big name that can help them kind of make a little bit of push just to guarantee a playoff spot. I don't think they're going to be gunning for the top spot anymore, but they're definitely going to try hard to just bust into the playoffs ahead of the Flames. I
do want to mention that Cole Caulfield. We mentioned him in the Belly Up Fantasy League, Belly Up Fantasy Live a couple weeks ago. Actually, it was Alex. Give credit to him for mentioning Cole Caulfield from the University of Wisconsin won the Hobey Baker Trophy as the best player in the country a couple nights ago. He actually started his first game for the Laval Rocket this week. First pro game. 2 goals, 1 assist, and wow. I think he could crack the Canadiens lineup. I'd probably say in the next week or two, and he could add some scoring punch to their team.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's bad news for my Calgary Flames because we're on the outside looking in right now. What are we, 6 points behind the Canadiens? Yeah. So that's bad news for me, but at least I, like in my intro, I say I'm a Flames fan with a Golden Knights backup plan. So, and the Golden Knights are looking pretty strong so far. So Colorado, though, I don't know. They're going to be tough to beat. Colorado.
Yeah, they just added Devin Dubnyk this weekend for goaltending depth. So that's a wise move, I think, on their part.
Yeah.
Don't really need it because they're plus 47 in the goal differential right now.
Yeah, they're scoring a lot of goals. They definitely are. Nathan McKinnon, in my mind, is probably top 3 in the league right now. So,
you get no disagreement from me, Jason.
So you mentioned being a Jets fan. Let's kind of move on to NFL talk a little bit. I was a Miami Dolphins fan growing up until Dan Marino retired with no championship, of course. And then I kind of got married and had kids and kind of wasn't paying much attention to many sports anymore. Hockey I stayed with, but
life happened. Let's put it that way. Life happened.
Life happened, yeah, and I kind of lost interest in the NFL. I watched here and there. Now I'm kind of getting back into it. I'm a Raiders fan because I have an obsession with Las Vegas.
I couldn't tell from the hat you were wearing.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a backstory there, but that's for a whole new podcast. So I'm getting back into the NFL. I'm kind of a fan of the game as opposed to a fan of diehard for one specific team. So, but I like the Raiders. I like the Ravens. I like the Seahawks. Jets. I don't know. You're a Jets fan, right?
Sad to say, yes. I'm a New York Jets fan since I was 4 years old. And I'll tell you the most arbitrary reason why I picked the Jets. So I'm 4 years old, and at this time I'm living in New Jersey. I was born in New Jersey. I moved up to New York. When I was 7 years old. I liked the color green because my favorite Muppet was Kermit the Frog. So I figured, all right, Kermit the Frog is green. My favorite color is green. You need to pick a football team. Oh, the Jets wear green. I'll just follow them because they wear green. Here we are, still a Jets fan all these years later because of freaking Kermit the Frog.
That is a very, very interesting story about how you became a Jets fan.
Like I said, totally arbitrary.
So speaking of the Jets, how are things shaping up with the NFL? I think the trade deadline or free agency they're in right now, right? Are they still in free agency?
Free agency is going right now. The draft is in T-minus 18 days.
Yes.
So 18 days until the first round of the NFL draft. It's going to be interesting to see what happens the rest of in the draft because they just traded last week. They traded Sam Darnold, which is kind of unfortunate, but I kind of saw it coming. The last 2 seasons, the Jets just basically ruined him because they had no talent whatsoever to speak of around him to build around. They overpaid Le'Veon Bell. He didn't shape out the way that they thought they could because Adam Gase didn't know how to use Le'Veon Bell. And he didn't know how to work with Sam Darnold. I mean, they had a patchwork offensive line the last 3 seasons. They had the most sacks. They've allowed they've had the highest sack allowance numbers over the past couple of seasons too. And it just rattled Darnold. Now he gets traded to Carolina. It's a fresh new start. He gets to work with one of the best offensive minds in the entire NFL, Joe Brady, as his offensive coordinator and quarterback coach. And as we know, he made Joe Burrow the way he made Joe Burrow. That's the reason why he won the Heisman Trophy that year and was the number 1 pick in last year's draft was because of Joe Brady. So he gets a chance to work with Joe Brady. He's reunited with Robbie Anderson. In return, the Jets get more draft picks to work with. So the big thing now is that Joe Douglas has over the next 2 seasons, the Jets have 21 draft picks. 21. I mean, imagine that. I mean, Jason, imagine for your favorite CFL team, they have 21 draft picks over the next 2 seasons. I mean, how do you build? What do you do? How do you build around that? Do you use it as trade bait? Do you just use it to draft and develop players? I mean, Joe Douglas has a wealth. He's a great amount of wealth to work with. Now, again, he can use those draft picks to acquire more talent. He can use them to draft and develop players, which the Jets are not been good at since the Rex Ryan days. Actually, it's arguably since the Herman Edward days. So the Jets have a lot to work with. They've got a big decision to make on the 29th in regards to who they'll pick at 2. Whether they'll pick either Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, or Justin Fields. Many are leaning towards Zach Wilson. I know one of our guys at Belly Up said that they were going to pick. They would pick Justin Fields. It just comes down to who can make the same type, who Robert Saleh can work with and develop as he comes on board as a head coach. So that's the big thing that's going to happen over the next couple of weeks is that Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh, the new head coach, are going to have to work together to figure out, okay, who's going to be best to develop in this new system that we're going to bring in, because this is basically the same system as the San Francisco 49ers that they used over the last couple of seasons, and they went to a Super Bowl a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Kyle Shanahan's system that Mike LaFleur helped develop. And now he's run the offense for the Jets next year.
Yeah. Were you surprised to see the big moves that were made last week? The big trade last week?
Like I said, I kind of expected it was coming. I'm actually kind of surprised that they got the amount of that they got what they got back. So they got a 6th round pick this year, and they got a 2nd round pick and a 4th round pick next year. That surprised me. I thought they would probably get no more than probably a 4th round pick this year, but Carolina came calling because they apparently needed a quarterback. And now Teddy Bridgewater is a decent quarterback, but he doesn't have the same arm strength that Sam Darnold has. He doesn't have the same. He doesn't have this. I mean, yes, but he also doesn't have the same type of skill set that Sam Darnold has. So it's going to be interesting to see the quarterback battle down in Carolina, and also the Jets have to figure out who they're going to bring in as a backup. So right now, Joe Flacco signed with the Eagles. I think he signed with the Eagles, if I'm not mistaken. So he's not coming back next year, which is fine. So I think they need to bring in a veteran.
Flacco used to be great. He was a great quarterback, and I don't know what happened.
Elite. Joe Flacco was an elite quarterback.
Yeah.
But I'm just kind of curious to see who they'll pick up as a backup. Maybe they bring in Alex Smith on a 1-year waiver just to help develop who's gonna be the next quarterback for the future for the Jets. Whether it's going to be Justin Fields, whether it's going to be Zach Wilson. I think a lot of people are aiming towards Zach Wilson. I'm not really sure why. He's had one good year, but some would say against subpar talent on the other side of the ball. Who can you name? I mean, who can you name? Who BYU played last year? Yeah, they played, I think, 1 or 2 ranked opponents. Actually, 1 ranked opponent, and that was it. And they wound up crushing them. That was Boise State. Plus, they played Coastal Carolina on a complete whim, because Coastal Carolina needed an opponent because their original opponent had backed. I think it was Liberty University. They backed out. They had to back out because of COVID concerns, and BYU said, "We'll play you." So the traveling Mormons went over to the Screaming Mormons, as I call them, kind of jokingly, traveled to Coastal Carolina, almost went up stealing that game. And Zach Wilson put himself on display for the whole nation to see. So I think they'll go with Wilson. I think they'll unlike past quarterbacks, they'll bring him in gradually. But I'm just kind of curious to see who they'll pick up as a potential guy who can bring him into the league and teach him how to be a pro quarterback, teach him how to go through the system that they're going to wind up using.
Mm-hmm. Now, what about the big moves that were made last week to put San Francisco sitting pretty to get their quarterback that they're after, even though they claim Jimmy's not going anywhere?
This is not about Sam. Look, he said about Sam. This is the same thing about Sam Darnold. And look what happened to him.
That's what teams always say right before that player gets traded somewhere. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure the Calgary Flames, back when they traded Jerome McGinley, right before that they said, Jerome's our guy. He's staying put. He's not going anywhere. And boom, he was gone.
He's gone to Boston.
So let's switch gears here to the. I'm gonna put these two in the same category. I'm gonna say let's switch gears to the XFL CFL.
The XCFL.
Yeah, the CFL / XFL. What are your thoughts about what's going on there with the kind of partnership, or they're calling it, or whatever they're calling it? you an XFL fan before?
I was, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was.
I watched a few games too, and I was getting to be a big fan as well. I really liked how they played the game.
I wanted to travel to MetLife Stadium. I wanted to go see a New York Guardians game, but unfortunately, Corona season came around, and unfortunately, they put a stop to that. But my big question with the XFL CFL partnership is that why aren't there more details being released? I'm curious because they had made that one big announcement a couple weeks ago saying, "Hey, we've entered into a partnership."
Yeah,
and okay, that's great, but what are some of the details of that partnership? Is it going to be strictly for the CFL? Is it going to be strictly marketing? And for the XFL, is it going to be developing talent to pipeline to the CFL? Because personally, that's what I think would happen. But the details are so quiet between Redbird Capital, who owns the XFL now, and between CFL, the commissioner Ambrosi, who may or may not have a job after all this is said and done. Randy, poor guy, but it's just I want more. I think a lot of fans are being left out in the cold with this whole thing because I want more details. Like I'm a detail I tend to be detail oriented when it comes to this kind of stuff. I want to hear what's going to happen. Is it going to be a straight merger? Is it going to be again marketing and talent pipelines? What's it going to be? Is it going to be where the Canadian League is where Canada's going to switch over to 4-down football on a 100-yard field, or is the CFL going to incorporate some of the rules that the XFL has in regards to kickoff, in regards to point conversions? I want more details. I need more details.
Yeah, you raise a very good point there, and from what I saw of the XFL when it ceased a season or two or a year ago, just over a year ago now, I think it was. Yep. I did notice that they did have a lot of CFL ex-CFL players in there. So I think in a way the CFL was already kind of a pipeline for the XFL. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's already in the talks. To me, as a big CFL fan, and I've been a CFL fan my whole life, I just want them back on the field. I don't care if it's a merger. Yeah. I don't care if it's, I don't care what comes down to, as long as they get back out there and playing again, really. The worst case scenario for me would be is if the CFL were to cease and there were no Canadian teams anymore.
Well, do you think that the XFL is looking to acquire franchises for the big cities like Vancouver and Montreal and Toronto?
That wouldn't surprise me. That's a scenario I hadn't really thought of, but that's probably a good scenario. And maybe the rest of the teams still operate as a pipeline for them, as you say, or because when the XFL was playing, didn't they have it set up so that certain teams, there was something weird about how the teams were set up and how there were teams coming into the league, and I can't recall now. It seems like eons ago, but I think The Rock knows what he's doing. I don't think the XFL and the CFL are both going to die. I definitely don't think the XFL is going to die with The Rock taking over, because he's a smart guy and he's not going to take something over if he doesn't see a light at the end of the tunnel. So I think something's in the works, and I can't wait to see what it is.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how, because I know that the NFL, they've expanded their season to 17 games, and they're going to have at least 4 international games per season starting next year, I believe. XFL's coming back in 2023. They were going to try to come back in 2022, but after this whole partnership with the CFL happened, they're not going to start again until 2023. The NFL, like I said, when they were mentioning that we're going to expand to 4 international games, the mayors of Montreal and Vancouver said, "Oh yeah, we'll host you," and there was no pushback whatsoever from Randy Ambrosie or Redbird Capital. I'm stunned.
Well, and part of that might be because the NFL is giant. They're a giant, and I don't think any pushback would even be, met by would mean anything, because the NFL would just crush anything. Now I know when they came back, when they played a game, I think it was in Winnipeg this past season.
Oh, that was a tire fire.
That thing was a tire fire. It was one of the worst.
That field was not equipped for that game.
No, and
that
makes me that makes me wonder how this partnership might work if the teams are going to actually merge, because realistically we would have to probably switch to smaller fields, because a CFL field won't fit in most US stadiums, I believe.
Depending on where you play, I know a lot of NFL stadiums right now, they're built the way they are. I know MetLife Stadium definitely could not host a CFL field. I don't think. I'll double check into that, but Red Bull Arena right down the road, they could host a game. They could host some XFL CFL games, because you would need, in order for this to work, whether the XFL goes to CFL rules and they hybrid with they make a hybrid CFL XFL, you would need to play in, because it's to accommodate CFL fields, you would have to play at soccer stadiums. So, for example, Seattle would still play at Quest Field or whatever it's called, CenturyLink Field or whatever it's called now. The Guardians would play at Red Bull Arena, because you could fit 20-something thousand fans in that arena for a football game. Houston would play at wherever the Houston Dynamo play. Some of these teams who play in the XFL already have capacity to set up for a Canadian field. I think I don't know about St. Louis, the Edward Jones Dome. I don't know if that could possibly expand out to 110 by 65 yard field. We'll see. But I know they're getting an MLS team in a couple of years, so they could. It could work. I think it could work if we have a hybrid adaptation of XFL and CFL rules. CFL dimensions, some of the XFL rules are in terms of conversions and player safety with the kickoffs.
Yeah,
it could work.
I was a big fan of those, actually. I really enjoyed the kickoffs and the conversions after the touchdowns. I thought that was a very interesting setup. I really liked how when they were doing the video replays, how they kind of brought us into the booth with them, and we were part of the discussion as to how the play was being overturned or not. I really like that, listening to the conversation.
Yeah,
I like a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, and I really like to see a lot more mic'd up stuff like that. Although, as we learned from the NHL a couple weeks ago, being mic'd up's not always what it's cracked up to be.
No, it's not.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where the CFL goes from here. But I guess we're in the dark until one day they're just going to pop out of the dark and they're going to say, "Hey, this is what we did," and we're going to have to go with it.
Yeah, I would want more. I just want more details. That's all I want. I want some transparency between Redbird Capital and Randy Ambrosie. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be that way. And I'm looking at all the teams from the XFL, and yeah, all these teams could play in an MLS, a Major League Soccer stadium, to have those dimensions for a CFL field. But again, adapt some of the rules from the XFL, and it'd be fun to watch.
Yeah, no kidding. So I noticed you're mentioning MLS fields, and you seem kind of knowledgeable on that. Are you a soccer fan yourself?
I dabble.
Yeah.
I actually was a New York Red Bulls season supporter back in 2016.
Okay.
I'm
I
not too. I live I'm about a 2.5 hour drive from Red Bull Arena.
The expanse of my soccer knowledge goes back to David Beckham coming to play for LA about what 15 years ago, or what was it?
Yep, yep. I remember that.
I know nothing about soccer. I'm not a huge fan. So, what else are you a fan of sports wise?
I like rugby. I played rugby for a while. Um, Rugby's fun because you beat each other up for 80 minutes and then you go out for drinks. It's a lot of fun. But I like rugby. I like watching Six Nations rugby. I didn't get a chance to watch it this year, but I just got a Peacock subscription, so hopefully they still have those games available. I miss those. I like watching Super Rugby down in the Southern Hemisphere. The New Zealand teams, they're fun to watch. I know the ESPN Plus has the Pro 12, the Guinness Pro 12, which is based out of Ireland. That's fun to watch. So rugby, I'm a big fan of baseball. I'm a baseball fan. I'm a Yankees fan. Basketball, I'm not so much into anymore. Ever since Jordan retired, I've not been.
Yeah, that's where I am too.
Not been a big basketball fan because it just seems like a glorified YMCA league. You call your own fouls and you score, and there's nobody's playing defense.
Yeah,
and I long for the days where they have guys playing defense. It's boring. Yes, it's boring, but guess what? I mean, defense turns into offense pretty quickly, especially if you had like a team like the Chicago Bulls who did that on a consistent basis.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I was a big Bulls fan way back when they were winning the championships, and watching The Last Dance, it actually amazed me how much deeper things go in the game than we see on TV. The politics involved and all kinds of stuff, and so that was a great Netflix series, I thought.
Yeah.
What about any NASCAR, anything like that, or no?
No, I'm not entertained by watching guys go in a circle and turning left for 5 hours.
I'd like to actually get out to see some lacrosse. I hear people saying that lacrosse is just an amazing game to watch, so I'd like to really get out to see at least a game or two if we ever get to go see games again here.
Well, as the unofficial Albany NLL correspondent for the Rod Peterson show, I can tell you right away.
You guys are getting a team.
Yeah, we are. The team's gonna be named hopefully in the next couple of weeks. We're also starting. We're getting arena football back too. We got the National Arena League. They're starting in the next month or so. New York, the state of New York, and the Empire, who is our team, came to an agreement to say, yeah, we can let fans in the stands because the owner of the team said that they weren't going to play unless they could have 25% capacity because that's the only way they're going to make money for the season. Yeah. They're only playing 8 games, so 4 games are at Times Union Center. So actually, and it's actually funny. I was watching the 1999 Arena Bowl on YouTube before we started recording because I was at that game. I was at the arena.
You were at that game.
I was at both Arena Bowls, and Arena Bowl 13 and Arena Bowl 32, the very last Arena Bowl ever, and both atmospheres. I could write about this or do a podcast. Actually, with no credentials required for the relaunch, I'm going to be doing kind of an abridged version of that sneak preview. We're going to do an abridged history of arena football in Albany, New York for that first episode. So, with no credentials, I'll kind of go into no credentials required here. I'm excited for the relaunch because we're bringing back. I'm hopefully going to be talking some local football, some local hockey, and lacrosse. With lacrosse coming back, I know Albany. We have a state at the University at Albany. They just played today. They wound up beating Maryland. Oh gosh, UMBC. I can't remember the abbreviation for UMBC, but they're typically top 25, top 10 lacrosse team in the nation in the United States. So we got a pretty good following for lacrosse. I think the first time they tried having an NLL team, it didn't go as well as it should have. But I think with more kids playing lacrosse in the Albany area now,
Mm-hmm.
and with UAlbany having all the success they have, I think you're going to find more people going to NLL games. The season starts in December, so and I'm not sure when they're gonna announce their name, their team name. It's come down to three names. I think one of them was the Attack, the other one was the Black Arrows, and I can't remember the third one off the top of my head. But hopefully
the Albany Attack. That sounds great.
That was their original team name. That was the original team that was in Albany back in 2000. Then they moved out to San Jose, and I think now they're the Vancouver Warriors, if I'm not mistaken. I did a little bit of research there, but now that team that was in Albany, they moved to San Jose, and I think now they're in Vancouver. But I'm excited. I'm hoping to get an idea of what this, because I didn't play lacrosse growing up. I just know that it's an exciting game to watch. It's fun, and I'm looking forward to when we can start going to games and watching games there. Oh, so it was the Albany Attack, the Albany Black Arrows, and the Albany Fire Wolves.
Yeah,
so weird. I like the Black Arrows. It's a fun name.
The Black Arrows isn't bad. That's a good one too.
It's a pretty cool name.
Is there any history behind those names, or just something they pulled out of a hat? Or
I think it just. I'm looking at the press release, and they had 1,000 submissions online, and they were voted by fans.
Okay,
executives and owners, and now they're figuring out between those three names. So
right.
So I know the Attack. Again, the Attack was the team that was there before, but I don't know about the Black Arrows and the Firewolves. So
yeah,
I know the team. They were New England before. I think they're playing Connecticut, and they were known as the Black Wolves. But I think they're kind of combining the Firebirds name from the old arena football team and the Wolves from this particular team, the Black Wolves. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see what the team name is, and personally, I'm excited that I'll be able to cover them for whether it's with Belly Up or with the Rod Peterson show. I'm looking forward to watching the whichever team they are in December.
Yeah, Rod has referred to me as his Calgary Flames correspondent. So now you mentioned No Credentials Required, your podcast, and you're relaunching. So when's that happening? When are you going to be back on the airwaves?
Well, I can publicly tell you that it's probably going to happen in the first week of May. I'm actually not only going to be partnering with Belly Up Sports, its original with Belly Up Sports, but I'm also going to be partnering with a local media group called Godzilla Media, and we're going to be combining forces with that to cover local sports. It's one of my buddies, Tom Gozlowski. He was actually my intern director when I was at the old radio station we both used to work for. As part of my internship for college, I interned for the radio station he was a part of. But he's expanding into he got let go from that station. He's expanding into doing his own thing with sports media, and I'm going to be a part of it. So we're probably going to relaunch the podcast in the first week of May as part of his launch for his podcast network. So we're going to be combining forces with him, and I'm pretty excited. So hopefully we'll relaunch this episode, and hopefully I'm kind of thinking about doing a live stream watch along of the Arena Bowl 1999 before the week before, so people can get used to me covering Albany sports. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah. So you kind of mentioned that you'd be covering local sports. Is it going to be strictly the local sports you'll be doing on No Credentials Required, or will that just be kind of like a segment?
No, this is gonna be permanent because I did the research, and there's outside the sports radio stations, and local news stations, there's nobody really going in depth into the local sports scene. So I'm gonna be covering arena football and UAlbany football, also the local football teams. I'm gonna be covering pro and college hockey, and I'll be covering pro and college lacrosse. So those are those three sports I kind of want to go and kind of focus on. For anything national wise, I'm going to be going on to Around for the Weekend, which is my live stream show that streams on Fridays at 6:30 Eastern time. So that's where we'll be covering most of the national stuff in terms of Major League Baseball and NFL and NHL stuff. So that's where you could find that the me talking about the national stuff.
Awesome. That's a great segue to kind of end things by just telling my followers and fans, as small as my group is right now, but we're growing, tell people where they can find you on social media and podcast wise.
All right. So personally, my Twitter handle is @WhoIsRyanMCC. And the handles for No Credentials Required is @BellyUpNCR. And for Around for the Weekend, it's @BellyUpAFTW. So you can find me and my shows there.
Excellent. And I will provide links to all of those in the description below. So yeah, people will be able to find you, and hopefully they're starting to find me. So I think we'll wrap it up here, Ryan. Thanks for joining me on the weekend. Hopefully it was a good weekend and you enjoy what's left of it.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
All right. Thanks a lot, Ryan.